Hi, welcome back, guys. John, hi. Yeah, um, welcome back to another week, another day of it's a short conversation about the Bible, about topics of the Bible, topics of the world, connecting the Bible to the world, as we do, right? So today, this morning, or whenever this evening, this afternoon, whenever you're watching this video, I wanted to bring to you guys up a topic that, or a title that a lot of people want to get to, like a calling people have, but not a lot of people understand the nuances of this calling. And this calling is leadership, but more specifically, leadership with or through loving, leading with love. You know, leadership itself is a calling that a lot of people aspire to, but not a lot of people are able to fully understand the calling or the understand the like I said before, the nuances of leadership and what leadership at its core requires. Um, Leadership itself, and when you think about leadership, you're thinking about control, authority, power. That's why a lot of people, a lot of men in this day and age believe that I'm the leader of the house. I'm the leader of the house. So I control everything that goes on in this house. Every thought, every action, every reaction, every every decision has to go through me, which isn't always true. But that, like, to delve deeply into leadership, that's not the full thing. Leadership is not who's in control; it's who is the one that's giving the most insights, who is the one that's bringing you from one place to another. That's what leadership is. So one thing I wanted to kind of bring today was kind of showing a different side or different approach to leadership. And we find this leadership approach or this leadership like viewpoint in the book of First Peter chapter 5, verse 2 to verse 4. That's the Apostle Paul, Apostle Peter, not Apostle Paul, the Apostle Peter bringing this new age, this new approach. Not even new age because it's from the Bible. It's old age. It's the old way of doing things or the proper way of doing things, right? So, reading verse 2 to verse 4, it says, "Be shepherds of God's flock that are under your care, watching over them, not because you must, but because you're willing, as God wants you to be, not pursuing dishonest gain, but eager to serve, not lording it over those entrusted to you, but being examples to the flock. And with my apologies, and when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that never fades away." Now, this message itself from Paul, it explains and explores how love is fundamental or is foundational to God's leadership or godly leadership, and how it transforms the way that we ourselves lead, we serve, and we encourage and bring up other people. Now, to kind of deep dive into this little passage, these three verses, reading verse 2 again. "Be shepherds of God's flock that are under your care, watching over them, not because you must, but because you're willing to." Let's look at that little part here. It says, not because you must, but because you are willing to. You're willing to serve. I'll add a little bit there, as God wants you to be. This talks to here about leading through willingness, not obligation. Now, to kind of break that down a little bit here is because obligation is like, I have to do this thing, so I'm doing it. And leadership driven by obligation, so much of the time, it leads us to dishonesty. It leads us to resentment. It leads us to burnout. And it leads us to a lack of genuine care for the people that you're leading. Because you're leading through obligation, like, well, I'm just doing this because I was told to or I had to do it. I don't really care about you. I don't care whether you take in what I say or how I say it to you. I'll say it to you however I want to, right? That's the danger of people that just speak how. That's why sometimes it's hard to just be around people that speak however they want to. I'll say that again. It's difficult to be under people that speak to you any way they want to, because they're doing this thing not out of willingness, but out of out of obligation. They're doing the leadership thing, not out of willingness, but out of obligation. When we lead out of love, it reflects in our willingness to lead or to love. Because when we are willing to do something, we just genuine care. There's genuine care for the person that we're people or the people that we're leading. We care about where they are at and care about where they can go, because out of anything we just want them to grow. There's a deep desire in us as leaders to watch them grow and to flourish into who we know or we can see the kind of person that they can end up becoming, right? So one thing I wanted to ask you to do as I wrapped up this point is reflect on your motives for leadership. If you're a leader yourself or you aspire to be a leader, reflect on your motives for leading. Are you leading because you need to? Are you leading because you want to? That's a statement that I don't fully agree with. I don't fully agree with this whole thing, right? But it's that statement of if you wanted to, or if they wanted to, they would. That kind of thing is blown out of proportion, and like it's not given the proper statement. That statement itself, if they wanted to, what they would, right? But what I'm asking you here, I'm not going into all that right now, but what I'm asking you here is particularly, are you leading these people because you want to, and you're willing to? Are you doing it because you have to, or because someone said I have to do it, so I have to do it? Think about that. So going further into the verse 2, it says, not pursuing dishonest gain, but being eager to serve. What does this talk about? This talks about integrity. Integrity, doing this thing not because of me, but because of the person I'm leading or the people I'm leading. Not doing it because I gain anything dishonestly or honestly or anything like that, right? But because my gain is connected to your gain. You know what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? Leadership is not about what we have or what we can have, but it's more about what we can give. It's not about what we can get, it's about what we can give. Leadership itself, love itself, requires selflessness, because you can't love somebody while thinking only about yourself, because then you're saying to you, love yourself. You don't love anybody else. You're doing it because you're going to get something out of it. That's not what love is. Love is seeing somebody hurting and putting yourself aside, someone struggling with something, putting yourself aside and helping that person wholeheartedly, right? When love is at the core of our leadership, it drives us to act with integrity, with a selflessness, not doing things for ourselves, but placing the needs of others ahead of ourselves. A big example of this, or even if you go into the Bible, if you go to the book of John chapter 13, I think if you read from John chapter 13, and read from verse 1 to 17, we get the illustration of Jesus washing the feet of his disciples. Now, Jesus was the Son of Man. He was God the Son. He didn't need to do any of these things. He didn't need to be washing his disciples' feet, But he did it because he himself is a follower of God, and they're followers of him. So thereby, they're following God themselves. So he himself, Jesus and his disciples are all 13 of them, because there were 12 disciples and one Jesus. They're all followers of God's will, of God's law. So he himself is just like them. So there's no, hierarchy in them. I'll do for you what I want to do for me. Washing my feet, washing your feet as well. Like an eye for an eye, all that kind of thing. But it's more about, there's no I'm better than you or you're better than me. We're all followers of God. So that means for me. So one thing I want you guys to do, in your own personal time, let me get into frame a little bit more, but on your own personal time, examine in your life, in your leadership, when you've done things for yourself and when you've done things for other people. You know, find out if your leadership, if there's any hints of integrity, of a dishonest gain in your leadership. Leadership should only and fully be full of integrity. You're right. So yeah. Then if you go into verse 3, just going almost done with this little conversation I'm having with you guys. Verse 3 says, Lord, not lording it over those entrusted it to you, but being examples to the flock. Leading by example, not by domination. Domination. I remember for myself, I was reading a book recently. It's called, I think it's called Men in Love or something like that. It's by a woman that is a feminist, but not a radical feminist. But she was talking a little bit about talking about patriarchy, and how patriarchy itself is the idea that men dominate the world. And they oftentimes say that it's even found in the Bible that in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, it says, and God created man and said to man, you will dominate this, be fruitful and multiply, have dominion over this world. You know what I'm saying? They say for man. But even though if you look in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, it says the husband will leave his parents and become one with his wife, becoming one human. So when they say man, they're talking about human. And humans are only complete when it's the husband and the wife. You know? So God, Peter itself, Apostle Peter here instructs us not to lord our leadership over people, but to be examples to the people that we're leading, the flock that we're leading, right? Leadership, pure leadership or true leadership is not about exerting power or control over somebody. It's about guiding them through examples or through example. Love does not manipulate, it inspires. Love does not manipulate, it inspires. As leaders, as godly leaders, we're called and we're instructed to reflect the love of God, the love of Christ, the character of Christ onto the people that we are leading. It resulting in leading in humility, in patience, and in love. Humility, patience, and love. Patience and love are the fruits of the Spirit, and humility is one of the biggest things. It's a sense of not seeing yourself better than other people or not putting yourself so high above other people. Even though you're being put in a position to lead them, you're not so much better than them as a human. You just have a certain level of knowledge that they may not have, or a certain level of wisdom that they may not have, and you're leading them through integrity, through willingness to that level of wisdom or knowledge. One thing I want you guys to do is consider the example that you're setting, the people that you are leading. Are your actions consistent with the love and the character of Christ, or are they doing it out of your own personal gain, or are you doing it to dominate the people that you are leading? So, now in conclusion, I have one more verse. And verse 4 says, "When the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that never fades away." That's the reward for leading through love. You know, even though our worldly possessions are temporal, the reward for faithful and loving leadership is eternal. You know, that should encourage us to stay steadfast, stay committed, stay knowledgeable, and knowing that God sees and rewards those that lead with love, lead properly, and lead through His example, not the world's example, right? So finally, in conclusion, leadership at its core is about love. You know, because God is love, and there's a love for God, and it's a love for the people that you're leading. Because God puts you in charge of the people that you're leading, whether you're a pastor in the church or you're just leading a group. You're a father in the family. You're leading whether one kid, two children, three children. Some people have 10 children. That's not me, right? But you know, there's a love for the people that God has entrusted to you, right? And as we lead in our daily lives, let us let us zero in and follow the example that Peter himself in these 3 verses has given us, to shepherd with willingness, with humility, with integrity, and by example. No, not me. What do I gain from this? But not what do I gain from this, but what do the people that I'm leading gain from this? And are they gaining something good or are they gaining something bad? So, thank you guys for listening and see you later.